Hello, I'm Natalie Bright, Governmental Affairs Consultant for the Olathe Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Johnson County Public Policy Council, a collaboration of all 10 area chambers of commerce, and particularly the Olathe Chamber, thank you for attending this candidate interview featuring Representative Megan Lynn. She's the Republican candidate for Kansas House District 49. This district is located in the city of Olathe, with the north running at 129th down to the southern tip of 149th, and on the east from Plum and to the west, I-35. Please note, Katie Dixon, the Democratic candidate, participated in a candidate interview during her primary race, and her video is available at the Vote Joco website. In addition, you will know that both candidates have submitted surveys that are also available for you to review. So thank you, Megan, for joining us today to share with our members and visitors to the votejoe.com website more about yourself and your priorities. We want to start today's conversation by spending about 3 or 4 minutes of us telling a little bit about yourself and why you're running again for House District 49. So thanks, Megan. Let's get started.
Thank you, Natalie, and I appreciate the invitation to speak with you today. So I'm Megan Lynn, and I'm the state representative for District 49, covering eastern part of Olathe. I was elected in 2018, and I serve on Health and Human Services Committee, Social Services Budget Committee, and Financial Institutions and Pensions Committee. And then this summer, I was appointed to serve on the 2020 Special Committee on Mental Health Modernization and Reform. So I absolutely love being in Topeka, and I'm excited to be there again next year. I grew up in northern Ohio. I grew up on a farm, an apple orchard farm. And so I learned how to work hard from an early age. I attended Muskingum College, which is in southern Ohio, and got a degree in biology and political science. And then I went and got my master's degree at Bowling Green State University in biology. And then I moved here in 2001 after I completed graduate school and began working at Stowers Institute for Medical Research. And I worked in a craniofacial development lab. So we studied the development of the head and neck. I worked on a line of mice that's associated with Treacher-Collins syndrome. So if you've seen the movie Wonder, the movie with the little boy who wears the astronaut helmet, that's what he had. And so I got to work on that. And so I have some published papers in Treacher-Collins syndrome. Also have some published papers on my work on the retinoic acid synthesis pathway and development. So that's what I did. In 2003, I married my husband, and we've had 3 great kids since then. I have a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And it was when my 10-year-old was born that I decided to become a stay-at-home mom and to just spend some extra time with my children. So I started working some part-time jobs. I worked as a para at our elementary school at Green Springs with the 3-year-old class. I've did some interior design, which was a lot of fun. And then for the last 4 years, I've been working at my church, College Church of the Nazarene, as a children's ministry assistant. So I do a lot of event planning for some of our older elementary students. So, you know, in 2018, it was an open seat because Scott Schwab decided to run for Secretary of State. And so I thought this was my time to become involved. And so that's why I decided to run.
Great, Megan, that background. These next few questions are going to focus on some key business issues that our members have told us are important to them. Just take about 2 minutes on each question if you could, and give us some of your thoughts about them. We hope to keep this around, as I told you, about 30 minutes so that it can be viewable at the Public Policy Council page. So let's get started with the first one. It's an easy. What are your top 3 priority issues, policy issues that you think are facing the state of Kansas?
Well, the top 3 issues that I hear when we're talking to businesses are workforce development, taxes, and regulation. So first, we just have to have a well-educated and well-trained workforce in Kansas. And we can do that by investing in education and vocational options. We need to cooperate with our public education system and our businesses to make sure that we're developing a workforce that's ready to compete in a global economy. And we've got to be able to keep some of the best and brightest young talent right here in Johnson County. You know, a lot of our millennials are just fleeing the state at an alarming rate, and we've got to work to reverse this trend. So we need to value vocational training as much as we do a college degree. In addition, we need to be able to have the businesses to retain these workers once they get beyond that initial training session. because it's just really costly to train new employees. Second, we got to have a tax system that's fair and consistent. COVID has just removed all sense of consistency and stability, and the market just really needs that and relies on it. So it's just really difficult to plan when there's uncertainty. So I've spoken to several small business owners, and they just want to know how they can plan. You know, how do they open? How do they stay open? How can they innovate and use creativity to do what they need to do to stay productive and sustain that growth? So they just need stable tax policy and the ability to function. And then third, we just got to make sure that they aren't able to grow due to burdensome government regulation. So while regulation can be a good thing, too much of it can just really have a negative effect on job growth. So businesses just need to be able to have that flexibility to take care of their employees, whether for healthcare, family benefits, and making sure that their employees have access to the communities that they want to be in, you know, for good schools or low cost of living, entertainment, parks and recreation, things like that.
Great. Okay, well, talking about the struggles of COVID and what it has meant to the state, one of the things we're curious about is how you would propose to balance the state budget. Are there specific budget cuts that you would support or any revenue enhancements that you would consider?
You know, budget cuts are never easy, but anybody who runs their family's budget knows that sometimes it's necessary. In our family, we use zero-based budgeting. We have to budget every dollar so we can account where that money is spent. And we need to make sure we take care of those essentials first, like housing, utilities, food. And then after that, it becomes about prioritizing. And there's so many great things that we do in the state of Kansas, and we just need to be able to stretch those dollars as efficiently and as effectively as we can. COVID has just exacerbated the need to prioritize the spending. And so we need to find ways to just reduce the rate of growth in spending and eliminate the waste. And COVID has just wrecked our revenue forecasts, and it's going to require budget cuts. I don't serve on appropriations, so I can't tell you exactly where we can cut today, but I will say that I'm willing to go in there and work to make those hard decisions, all the while protecting the critical areas like foster care and our schools and our disabled populations. And then we need to work on policies that we can that will help lift us out of the COVID recession and get Kansas back on our feet. So you know, I don't want to consider any tax increases to Kansans. You know, we're already overtaxed at so many levels; it's just not sustainable. I think one revenue enhancer we can look at is sports gambling, but really we've just got to manage our spending, and there's got to be balance.
Great, thank you. Well, another thing that I think is weighing on the hearts of business is how do we continue to grow and develop our state's workforce? Do you have some thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So Johnson County has consistently been a hub for innovative technology and research. And so we need to be able to support these businesses along with things like world-class healthcare and grow other sectors of the economy that are going to benefit our families and our communities. So we need to focus our energies on our education system by advocating for just strong vocational programs in our high schools. We just need to let students know that there are so many options for them, and they're all equally respected. I'm so proud to be in a community in a school district where career development is valued early on. So, you know, Olathe has our 21st Century programs, which allows kids to look at careers that they might be interested in. And this is something that my own children have already partaken in. My oldest is in his second year of sports med at Olathe North, and he loves it. My other two are already considering what programs they want to get involved in. And then even beyond that, we still, we have the Olathe Advanced Technical Center, which encourages all those trade school options and provides high schoolers with the opportunity to learn careers like automotive technology and aviation, electronics, construction, culinary arts. And kids are able to get these experiences as part of their education, so they're ready to succeed upon graduation. You know, we also this past year, we passed the Kansas Promise Act, which would provide scholarships for Kansas graduates who agreed to complete a certificate or a 2-year program at a community college, trade school, or technical school in one of the 10 high demand areas for skilled workers. So we just need to work with our local chambers so that we better know the needs that we're going to have to grow the next generation.
Well, that's a great segue into the other big issue for us in Johnson County is K-12 funding. What are your views on how we move forward with that?
Yeah, well, I've already said I have 3 kids and all 3 of them are in the public schools. And so I personally have a vested interest in making sure that our public education is second to none. And that's why in 2019, I went ahead and reached across the aisle to make sure we had a plan that funded our schools and ended all the years of litigation that we had. You know, Johnson County takes so much pride in our school and the quality education that we give our children, and I do as well. Like I said, I've got 3 kids, and if you combine all the years that we've been in the Olathe schools, it's 30 years, which is just insane. But in those 13 actual years, I've had so many amazing teachers. My kids have had amazing teachers who are capable, loving, experienced, dedicated to their work. And I know that we haven't been able to give them, you know, the proper salaries that they need. They're certainly underpaid. So I want to continue to be a good support for our teachers, and then also make sure that our kids are getting that deserved quality education. They are the most important investment for the future of Olathe and for the state of Kansas. So we just need to make sure that we are funding our education.
Great. Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about economic development policies. Are there any that you would support that would encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas?
Yeah, you know, more Kansans are employed by small businesses than any other type. And so we need to make sure we're passing policies and regulations that are helping these small businesses grow and thrive instead of being punitive and restrictive. Olathe over the years has just absolutely exploded, just because, not only because it's a great place to raise our families, but it has incredible work opportunities from small businesses to international corporations. So to continue this growth, we've got to ensure that Olathe is able to meet the needs of families that are living here with things like great schools, parks and recreation, public safety, and of course, infrastructure. And, you know, I chose to move to Olathe because I knew that this was an amazing place to raise my children. And, you know, let's face it, we've got amazing people. Midwestern values are just so important to me, and it's what I teach my children.
Great. Okay, we're going to switch gears again. What are your views on healthcare policy for the state of Kansas?
Right. So in 2019, the House debated and passed Medicaid expansion, and then it got bottled up in the Senate. So next session, it's imperative that we continue to work to find solutions to address the accessibility of healthcare, as well as the rising costs. So we are currently failing to help the vulnerable among us right now. And so my focus is to address those folks on the waiting list who are still waiting for services. But, you know, I really adamantly believe that we do need to address the needs of those individuals who are caught in the coverage gap. We have ideas like continuing telemedicine, utilizing APRNs effectively, and then allowing workplace options for on-site healthcare, which was a bill that I was really proud to carry on the floor. And then utilizing community paramedicine for the underserved population to reduce the financial and the time-sensitive burden of healthcare. We also voted to expand access to healthcare through association healthcare plans, as well as the Farm Bureau bill. But I will continue to be at the table for discussions about Medicaid expansion, and there will be an opportunity to draft a new bill for that for those who would benefit. And I'm going to be part of that discussion. So in addition to that, you know, I also have to mention that I'm so excited to be part of the Special Committee on Mental Health, Modernization and Reform. And, you know, during these last few months, especially, the need for mental health services, accessibility, and resources has just been dramatically more apparent. And so it's really important to our families and our communities. And I'm so thrilled we're focusing on this now.
Great. Thanks so much. Okay, we're going to shift a little bit more, and near and dear to businesses is tax policy. So what are your views on state tax policy, and how should the state of Kansas move forward?
So with taxes, we have the 3-pronged approach: sales tax, property tax, and income tax. And we have to find a balance of those 3 so that we can spread that burden throughout the state. You know, property taxes, especially here in Olathe, have just been increasing at an unsustainable rate for many in my district. So we really need to have a lot more transparency on how those property taxes are decided. We also have really high sales tax of over 10% in a lot of our communities. And this just really adversely affects some of our younger families, some of our lower income families. And so we really just need to find ways to reduce this, especially on food.
Great, thank you. Last question, and then we'll have a time for you to have a closing statement. But what do you think most distinguishes you from your opponent and would qualify you to represent District 49?
Well, having served in the House for the last 2 years, I already have a record of reaching across the aisle to find bipartisan solutions for the betterment of Olathe, including funding our schools, expanding access to healthcare, and supporting our small businesses as well as our public safety. For me, it doesn't matter if an idea is a Republican or a Democrat idea. If it's a good idea, we need to do it. And so we need to have a bipartisan collaboration even more in these next coming years as our face just continues to face problems like we never have before. Growing up on a farm, I wasn't allowed, I wasn't raised to run away from problems or difficult work. And, I've always been one to try to solve those. And even our Kansas state motto, ad astra per aspera, to the stars through difficulties, it's so appropriate for today. So when I'm reelected, I'm going to continue to work and serve the hardworking people of District 49. Being in Topeka, I've learned that it is so important to develop relationships with my fellow legislators so that we can develop really good policy. And I've got those relationships. I've been forming those relationships for the last couple of years now. And then in addition to that, having relationships with my constituents to keep me grounded in what's happening here in Olathe. Some of the best meetings I've had are those one-on-one meetings with constituents to hear what the important issues are to them. And so I will continue doing that. And I remain committed to making Olathe the best place for business development, career opportunities, and a great place to raise a family.
Well, Megan, thank you so much for sharing your responses. We really appreciate you taking the time. You do have 3 minutes if you would like to have a closing statement. Anything else you would like to say for those who are watching this video?
Well, first, I just want to thank you for putting this interview on, and I want to thank the people of District 49 for allowing me the opportunity to serve them for the last 2 years, for keeping me accountable. I appreciate that. I appreciate the encouragement and the support. And, I even appreciate the messages that are asking me to view issues differently. I think that's really important. I do my best to always keep an open mind. To research issues, I need to be so that I can be the most effective. The experience I've gained in these last couple of years are going to allow me to be more effective from day one. I'm ready to dive in, ready to be effective starting in January. And I've been working all summer on issues for constituents dealing with COVID, various issues. And then I've also been working on a bill to protect our children from predators. So I'm excited to bring that to Topeka in January. So I'm ready to return. I'm ready to be in Topeka, and I'm just ready to represent the people of the 49th District again.
Well, again, Megan, thank you so much. We do appreciate you participating in this candidate interview. They can be found at www.votejoco.com. I just want to remind the viewers of a few things before we wrap up. That advanced voting does start on Wednesday, October 14th. Advanced voting in person will begin on Saturday, October 17th. And of course, the general election will be on November 3rd, with the polls being open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. So again, Megan, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time and wish you the best of luck on the rest of your campaign and the election.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks so much.